One of the truths of living in Vancouver is that no matter how much money you have, it feels like there are people who have so much more money than you do. There are displays of wealth all around us, from supercars to expensive handbags, crazy watches, expensive shoes, whatever it might be. And real estate is absolutely no exception. There are some incredible homes in Metro Vancouver, and they're not all tied into just one neighborhood. They are scattered through all of Metro Vancouver. Yes, they're more centralized in certain areas, and we're going to get into that, but I'm going to explain exactly where they are, what it's like to live in them, and what kind of homes you're going to find in each of these areas. So if you're wealthy or you want to be wealthy, this is a video you're going to want to watch to have an understanding of exactly where the wealthy live in Vancouver. Let's get into it right now. My name is Sebastian Albrecht with the Living in Vancouver BC team, and welcome back to the channel. This channel is all about moving to and living in Vancouver. Every single week we put out videos just like this one, and this week we're talking where the wealthy live in Vancouver. And there's no doubt about it, in order to live in Metro Vancouver, you do need to be wealthy on a global scale. In the city of Vancouver, a typical home these days is over $1 million. In fact, it's $1,272,000 at the beginning of 2025. So no matter the type of home you need to buy in Metro Vancouver, where you're living is going to cost you a considerable amount of money. But a house in Metro Vancouver is even more expensive. In the city of Vancouver, it is now over $2.5 million. It's $2.614 million in the city of Vancouver to own a typical house. And even condos are incredibly expensive. They are well over $750,000 for a typical condo. It's $778,000. So again, no matter the type of property you're looking for, you need to be relatively wealthy in order to afford to live in Vancouver. But what about the ultra wealth? And because of these measurements, what I'm looking at is over $5 million. Where are these sales? In the last 2 years, there's been 557 sales, over $2 million. I can tell you of these sales, 80% of them have been in one of two areas of Metro Vancouver. They're very specific areas that you are going to want to know about. But then there's also other underlying areas, sort of the secret neighborhoods that you definitely need to know about if you're wanting to know where the wealthy live in Metro Vancouver. Let's head to the map to look very specifically at where these areas are. This map that we're looking at right now shows you Metro Vancouver, and it's showing the sales and listings of homes in the last 2 years over $5 million. And you can see these are houses, I should say, detached homes. You can see that in the city of Vancouver, there's a large amount right there. And then we also have a lot right there. And what we have here are the two areas that I was talking about. That is the west side of the city of Vancouver under there where there's 267. And then in West Vancouver, in the suburb of West Vancouver, which is directly to the north of Vancouver, that's the area where we also see a significant amount. Now, there is a smattering of them in other areas of Metro Vancouver in the last couple of years, but I'm going to talk about that in a little more detail. For now, let's get a little closer look of where these areas on the west side of Vancouver are. And now we have the city of Vancouver in front of us. And the city of Vancouver essentially is this right there. The division between East Vancouver, this is east, is essentially Main Street, which runs right there. And you can see that all of the very expensive real estate is pretty much exclusively on the west side of Vancouver. There was one sale that happened right here, which was a very new house, a bigger house on a bigger piece of land, but the vast majority is over to the west side of Vancouver. And this traditionally has been the area that has been most desirable in the Metro Vancouver area. People are looking for safe areas. They're looking for family-oriented neighborhoods. They're looking for extra high quality schools where kids can have excellent educations. And very specifically, where we're going to start is here in Shaughnessy, and it's this zone right there. And Shaughnessy is historically known as pretty much the most exclusive neighborhood that you're going to see anywhere in Metro Vancouver. And that's the case basically since the city was founded. Now, there is a little bit of history with some other areas of New Westminster as an example, the Grandview Woodlands area on the east side of Vancouver, in fact, until the National Railway, the landing point for the railway was moved from Port Moody here to the Port of Vancouver. And when that happened, what the railway company did was establish the area, the subdivision of Shaughnessy, which they established as an exclusive area with stunning architecture, stunning homes, and very large pieces of land. And you also have, unusually for the city of Vancouver, you can see the street grid that we have is typically all north-south and east-west. That's not the case in Shaughnessy. Shaughnessy. And in fact, I grew up not that far from Shaughnessy, but I still get confused when I drive in there because all of the roads are winding, and you kind of like, if you're not driving through there all the time, you need some navigational help. You need a little bit of a map, and you can't see the mountains, which is a bit of a secret in Metro Vancouver. Wherever you see the mountains is generally directly north. I was explaining this to my kids in the car the other day, but Shaughnessy really is one of those really special neighborhoods. It has a lot of history to it. Most of the houses are typically have been protected up to this point. And so the result is that a lot of the houses are 120, 130, 100 years old, and they are massive mansions. And so you can find very big pieces of land with very big houses in this really exclusive neighborhood right at the heart. You can see it's at the very center of the city of Vancouver. And that is all the reason why it has been so popular for so long and continues to be incredibly popular. There are some changes in Shaughnessy now, where it is also becoming sort of on the edges of Shaughnessy, like up here in this zone and along here on this zone. There's more high density being built, more condos being built, and you're seeing slightly higher end meant for downsizers from that area, or people who want to be in the neighborhood but don't necessarily want to be in or can't afford to be in a big house. And then the other thing you're actually seeing, where houses in Shaughnessy may go for $7 to $15, $20 million in that kind of range, the typical house at the beginning of 2025, I should have mentioned, in Shaughnessy is $4.873, so $4,873,600. But that prices are generally considerably higher than that. You do see some half duplexes and townhouses that are really exclusive and very large in the 4 million plus range, $4, $5, $6 million in that kind of range. So those options exist as well. And then aside from those, we have some other neighborhoods in this area. Sorry, it should have been moved a little further south than I drew that. But those areas would include Quilchena, where the typical price for a house these days is just shy of 4.4 million, as well as Mackenzie Heights, which is just shy of $4 million, and Kerrisdale, which is just shy of $3.8 million. So all very exclusive neighborhoods, all with residential single family homes, some areas where there is higher density. Kerrisdale would be an example of that, where there is higher density, but much of what's being built in recent years isn't what is meant for the typical investor or a first-time buyer. It is typically meant for an older generation, and many of the people that live in these neighborhoods are a little bit older and they want to stay in the neighborhood. So they may sell their $5 million, $10 million house and then move into a $4 million, 1,500 square foot condo in an exclusive building. So those options exist in these areas as well. But again, what you're finding is these are very centrally located. They're the access into downtown to your office, whether it's your business or you're a lawyer or a doctor, an engineer, what have you, heading into those areas, and also heading out to the airport is quite convenient. The airport is just on this piece of land right to the south of Vancouver in the city of Richmond, but that's YVR down there. And you are in an exclusive area. You are separated from the hustle and bustle from the rest of the city. These are leafy, wide streets, treed, massive trees and wide boulevards and separation from one house to another, which a lot of people are looking for when they're settling in. But this is a little more of an urban environment. And so you have to want that. It's a bit, maybe urban isn't the right way to describe it, maybe more suburban at the edge of an urban environment. Having access to it is part of what is desirable. But there's other areas as well. This area right here, that is Point Grey Road, which is really one of the most exclusive addresses you're going to find anywhere in Metro Vancouver. One of Vancouver's wealthiest people, Chip Wilson of Lululemon fame, he lives here and in what is very consistently rated as one of the most expensive homes in all of Metro Vancouver, in fact, of all of British Columbia. I believe it's somewhere in the $50 to $60 million range these days, but all of the neighbors along the waterfront there is incredibly pricey. And the lots here are generally smaller. I mean, there are some larger lots, which is where the prices get up a lot higher. There are some really modern, stunning homes along here, which again is pushing those price points up. There isn't protection in the same way that there is in Shaughnessy for the historic significance of buildings. And so the result is this is an area that people would move to build some really modern architecture. So that's something you desire. And you also want the proximity to the ocean. And this is really the best place that you're going to find. There's no street in front of the houses on Point Grey Road that are right on the waterfront. And this is really the only place that you're going to find that in the city of Vancouver. And that is why this particular neighborhood is so exclusive and so sought after. So it's that beach access. The views are absolutely stunning with the ocean in front of you, the city off to one side, and then to the west, you're going to have sunset views, of course, as well. So in every direction, you're going to see incredible views. And this little pocket here of Point Grey in general is exclusive. You're looking at about $3.5 million for a typical house there. But Point Grey, this particular neighborhood, is really what pulls the rest of Point Grey up quite a bit. This area you're going to find, in fact, I think there was a house just within the last year that sold for $40 million, I believe. There are, again, some really stunning, significant homes, larger lots, a lot of modern architecture, and there also is this proximity to the ocean, which is highly desirable. There's a part of this where there's an elevated section where you're looking over a cliff over the ocean. The thing about the area right along here is you are at water level, and there is a very busy road that comes along here, Northwest Marine Drive. So that pocket right along the waterfront there, it's not as exclusive as Point Grey Road because you're behind a busy road and there's a very busy public beach in front of you. But the little pocket in behind is really where the secret sauce is. Now, I do wonder if this will continue because there is massive development planned for the Jericho lands, which is right in here. And that is going to change the nature of this area quite substantially. I don't know if it will continue to be the same draw as it has been up to this point, but that is yet to be determined. The other area sort of continues to be a part of Point Grey, but also part of UBC. This zone right in here, this is an incredibly exclusive neighborhood. Some of the nicest homes I've ever seen are up here. Some of the wealthiest people in Metro Vancouver live up here. You have stunning, commanding views overlooking the harbor of Vancouver, English Bay, I should say, to the North Shore. There is definitely an exclusivity here. Most people have absolutely no idea that exists whatsoever. You just drive right on by right here or right on by here, and the streets in here are just so beautiful and exclusive. I find quite funny because it's right on the edge of the University of UBC. There is an increasing draw to that community as UBC really does develop. So this was really tucked out of the way in a way that no other part of Vancouver really was. But now with the increasing amenities that are being built at UBC, there's an increasing draw to this neighborhood, I think, aside from the exclusivity, aside from the quality of the schools, and aside from the views and the size of the properties, etc. There's also the growing addition of the amenities that you can find at UBC, which I think continues to be a draw there. Before we jump over to West Vancouver, I do want to talk a little bit about condos and not just houses. And when we look at exclusivity in Metro Vancouver, really, we can't only talk about single family residential. So in Vancouver, owning a condo is often just a lifestyle choice. And that's certainly the case with the wealthy in Metro Vancouver. There are options to own very exclusive condominiums that are purchased well above $5 million. And this map that I have in front of me right now, that's indicating sales that have happened over $6 million in the last 2 years. And so this is the downtown peninsula that we have in front of us. I just went around one sale down there for some reason, but that's not downtown. That's downtown. And you can see that most of the sales, most of the listing activity is in that pocket. That is Cole Harbour. And then down here in Yaletown. So those are where you're going to find the most exclusive. That southern end of Yaletown around the Granville Street Bridge. That is an area where you're going to find, for example, King's Landing, which is one of the most exclusive buildings you're going to find. There are typically what you're going to find with more exclusive buildings is larger square footage, really nice amenities, and a high level of amenities and a high quality of maintenance that happens very consistently. Those are the most exclusive buildings. And again, that's the case with this neighborhood to the south. That was built by Concord Pacific as part of the expansion of the Expo Lands, but that was designed as an exclusive neighborhood on the southern side of downtown Vancouver. And then to the north, we have Cole Harbour, which once again was designed as a more exclusive neighborhood. And both of the buildings in both areas are quite new. They're a little bit older in Cole Harbour, often built in the late 90s, mostly in the early 2000s until about 2010 or so. And then in that Yaletown area, it's a little bit later, more from early on in the 2000s till about 2010 in that kind of range. And Cole Harbour, you're going to find more buildings that are spread out than you do find typically in the Yaletown area. There's a little less of a neighborhood feel, a little more of that feeling that there's probably more people that don't reside here a lot of the time. In fact, this neighborhood was sort sort of at the forefront of inspiring local politicians to fight for the empty homes tax and to try and get properties that were being bought by people from other places with money to try and get them back into the local housing pool. Whether that was wise with an area like Cole Harbour, I don't know. To be honest, it's not really that big a draw for that many locals. I do find that it's typically the wealthy from other parts of the world who want to live in an area like Cole Harbour. And the draw for Cole Harbour isn't so much sort of the character of the neighborhood. It's more about its location, its convenience. So your access to Stanley Park and to downtown. It's the same with Yaletown as well. The fact that it's on the seawall, and so you're able to just walk right out of your waterfront condo and hop on the seawall on your bike, or go for a brisk walk or a jog, go out for a coffee with a friend. But then there's also the access right through here, as I said, to Stanley Park, but beyond that to the North Shore Mountains, places like Cypress and Seymour and Grouse if you want to go hiking and adventuring and skiing in the winter months. And beyond that, Horseshoe Bay to hop on the ferry to get out to your cabin, maybe on Vancouver Island or on one of the Gulf Islands. And further north, heading out to Squamish and to Whistler for more outdoor pursuits and activities. So that is one of the things I think that people really love about an area that like Cole Harbour. It is sort of an area that it lends itself to taking advantage of everything, all of the nature that is surrounding the city of Vancouver. You're going to be able to find properties in the $10 million range, $20 million range plus. Mostly what you're going to find is the higher levels. You're looking at penthouses or places with really exceptional views. You are also going to find expensive real estate throughout this zone that isn't perhaps as exclusive. Maybe the buildings aren't as exclusive, but the property itself will be. You'll be in the penthouse of really nice condo buildings in these areas at the higher price points, and certainly to some degree also in the surrounding areas. And that's why we see that one listing there in Olympic Village and in the lower part of Mount Pleasant as well. There's some really nice buildings that have some really exclusive penthouses that are going to be at the higher end with stunning views. And really that's what you're going to find very consistently at the top price points with condos. Aside from the quality of the building, you're really paying for the view that you're going to get. So because you're on a slope here going downwards, your views to the north of the city of Vancouver and beyond it, the mountains and the inner harbor are truly breathtaking. So don't just think if you are looking at exclusive real estate in Metro Vancouver, it isn't just single family residential. When you're downtown, look up and think about what's around you. There really is some stunning stuff, and it is a little more hidden because we can't just drive by and see it so easily. Now, moving further north, we're going to head over to West Vancouver and looking at the North Shore now. And the North Shore is what we call both North Vancouver over here as well as West Vancouver over here. And the division is essentially right up here. You can see that there's a smattering of expensive real estate in North Vancouver. It's pretty much kind of surrounding Edgemont Village, which is in here. Edgemont Village is an area that I covered in a recent video that is a really exclusive area. In North Vancouver, you're going to find some stunning properties there. But the real exclusive nature of the properties is to the west in West Vancouver. And British Properties is probably the area that is best known in West Vancouver, but it's not the most exclusive. So in West Vancouver, in the beginning of 2025, British Properties typical price is just shy of $3.5 million. But there's some areas that you need to know about that are even more exclusive. The desirability of being up here in West Vancouver is the fact that you're above the upper levels highway. You have incredible views down below you. And then in this neighborhood up above here are some of the best private schools and some of the best high schools and schools in general that you can find. And really throughout West Vancouver, it's also the kind of quality of schooling that is really, whether it's a chicken and egg, whether it comes with the money or the money goes there because of it, you can decide for yourself. But the reputation of the schools in West Vancouver is really exceptional and second to none. But it is Chartwell, which is the neighborhood kind of tucked in right beside British Properties. That is far and away the most exclusive neighborhood in all of West Vancouver, where the typical home is just over $5.7 million. Chartwell is going to be where you're going to find a little newer properties and larger properties than you do find in British Properties, why there is a bit of a difference in value there. British Properties is quite old and developed a lot of it quite a long time ago. But the other area that you want to know about is Altamont, and that is the area just to the west of Dunderave. Dunderave is sort of this cute little village, public beach access there in Dunderave, and just to the west of it is Altamont, and that's where you can really get these private tucked away sections right along the waterfront here. Some of the most exclusive real estate that you're going to find anywhere. These are the types of houses that might have a helicopter landing pad on them. There's rumors that Oprah Winfrey lived in the area. There's one of the most expensive houses on the market anytime in recent history has been in that neighborhood as well. I think they were listed at one point around $60 million. And really just in general along the waterfront here anywhere is incredibly exclusive, but the quality of the waterfront really does matter. And that is one of the reasons that Altamont is at the forefront of desirability, because the quality of the waterfront is much higher. There are some really rocky outcroppings along West Vancouver. The access, you might be on the water, but your access to the water is rather limited. And that's going to impact value and desirability. But all along here, what people are looking for is being remote, having privacy, having sort of a limited amount of traffic, just the natural stunning beauty that you have access to, the ability to get into downtown Vancouver when you want to, but also out of Vancouver into nature when you want to. It's a very different, very exclusive lifestyle that you're going to find. In fact, I was touring in this neighborhood not that long ago with a client that was looking in the $10-12 million range. And we were looking at houses in this sort of area here. And the houses really just absolutely took my breath away, from brand new houses that were on a little bit smaller lots that were built to just a stunning level of quality that is so incredibly rare, to older houses that are beautiful and have character and history and commanding views to the south. Just the kind of views that you have from West Vancouver. If you haven't experienced it, it's hard to describe what it's actually like on that side. And the experience for so many people and so much of Vancouver is that if you have a view, it means that you don't have light. And one of the really exceptional things in West Vancouver is that you have a lot of light, because your views to the south are where the light is coming from as well, right? So that is really, really special, I think. And so much of West Vancouver is incredibly special. But where else are some special areas around Metro Vancouver? It's not just exclusive to West Vancouver and Vancouver. In fact, if you are trying to figure that out, well, I am a real estate agent that's helped hundreds of clients over the years. It's been almost 20 years that I've been doing this, helping people move to Metro Vancouver, finding the right homes, whether you have a lot of money or a little, it doesn't matter. I help people find homes that are valued at $5 million, at $500,000, and at $20 million. No matter the budget, I can help you and your family find the right home in the right areas. All it takes is a conversation. My contact information is right there on the screen. Be sure to reach out anytime. But let's get back to the video and finding what other areas of Metro Vancouver we should be looking at. Well, aside from large pieces of land and being tucked in away from things, one of the other themes that we see over and over again with the more exclusive areas of Metro Vancouver is access to water and being waterfront, essentially. And so there are a couple other pockets that I want to draw to your attention. I've talked about this in a little bit of my recent videos, but this area in here, Pleasant Side, Barber Street, and more specifically Belcarra, and just really this whole section in here of what we know as Port Moody. Village of Anmore is a separate entity, but this is all of the western sections of Port Moody. In Pleasant Side, that's an area where you're going to find waterfront options that are incredibly exclusive, but much more affordable than what you're going to find in Point Grey Road. Anmore is a very different area, a very different experience. That is not waterfront. That is really being tucked in amongst the trees on a mountainside, really large estates in that area, and newer exclusive construction, excellent schools. Same thing with Belcarra, essentially, but I can give you an idea. And more specifically, is one of the most exclusive areas you're going to find in all of Metro Vancouver. Its typical price point is $3,353,500 at the beginning of 2025. So this is one of the exclusive neighborhoods. And again, having that access to nature, being tucked in away from things, not having an incredible amount of traffic. I did mention when I was talking about Pleasant Side that in the summer months, you do get a fair amount of traffic traveling sort of in this area. Oops, I missed it, but that one down here, right there, is Sassamat Lake. Belcarra Regional Park, you can get some traffic in there, but it's also Bunsen Lake right up here where you're going to get people traveling through Anmore. But there are some areas of Anmore that are more tucked away than others, so that will be something to think about if you're looking at purchasing in that area. The other thing to note, we were talking about areas that are close to water, close to ocean access, and you do see a number of properties down here, that area of Crescent Beach. This is White Rock. And there is an exclusive neighborhood. I almost said Chartwell, but that's not right at all. Elgin Chantrell. So it's sort of this upper area here. And that's an area of South Surrey where you also see some large estates and some really beautiful homes. This is a good draw if you're looking for an area that has good schools, has a certain degree of exclusivity, but you're also looking for a place that has access to the ocean and better weather. So I've talked about that in a number of videos. This is an area around White Rock where you're seeing about a third of the rain that you're going to see in North Vancouver. So it's a much drier spot, and there's going to be more sunshine down here than you're going to find, especially in comparison to Anmore. I mean, Anmore is probably at the other end of the spectrum. And I also wanted to mention this area of Langley, and essentially it comes into Surrey a little bit. But this area in here, the Campbell Valley, this is an exclusive area as well, where you're going to see it's not quite as exclusive on the price point, where you're seeing its typical price point is just shy of $2.8 million, but it is an area where there's a different option. And again, perhaps a drier option, right? But you're, rather than finding an urban experience, maybe buying a condo downtown, or a somewhat suburban experience buying in Shaughnessy or Mackenzie Heights, this kind of experience is where you're going to find estates and mansions on estates. And this is predominantly agriculturally zoned. You see a little bit of this option as well in the Richmond area, a little bit as well down here in the Southlands area. And I had meant to cover that when I was talking about Vancouver. It's very unusual to find it in the city of Vancouver. I grew up just beside this area and had a few friends that lived down there in what were at the time just the most gorgeous modern mansions I could ever imagine. I mean, we played games of hide and seek for days in those houses. So you're going to be able to find horse estates essentially. So if you're into farming and horses, Southlands in Vancouver or the Campbell Valley area of Langley are two areas that you really want to target. And these are zoned agricultural predominantly. So the result is you're going to be paying lower property taxes. They're valued at agricultural levels. As long as you're producing agricultural income through the year, you're able to continue doing that. And it just has to be a bare minimum, which is how people are doing it and building these massive estates. And we're talking about houses that aren't, in Vancouver, you might find a large house being 3,000, 4,000 square feet. Here you're talking about 6,000, 8,000, 10,000 plus square feet. So massive mansions, massive pieces of land. And once you get up into these properties that are 30, 40,000 plus square feet, I mean, this is where you're paying $6 million, $10 million for a very new house on those properties. So this is, again, one of those things that I really love about Vancouver is that you kind of have options, right? Like you can have that urban environment, you can live on the side of a mountain, you can live by the beach, and you can live on a house estate. And it is all of that potential is there for you. The only thing is you have to have the budget for it, of course. So if you do have the budget, if you are looking to purchase a house, whether it's a low budget or a high budget, I've got you covered. I am a realtor that has helped hundreds of families settle in Metro Vancouver and find the right home. I can help you and your family as well. My contact information is right there on the screen. Be sure to reach out anytime. Whenever you are ready, I am here for you. And if you're not quite ready to reach out to me, that's totally okay, because I also have you covered with countless, endless amounts of videos for you. You can spend over 100 hours watching my videos if you wanted to. I don't necessarily recommend watching all of that at once, but any question you have is probably answered in one of my videos. So be sure to check out my backlog of videos. I put a lot of time and effort into it. If you don't see something in those videos and you have a question for me, be sure to fire it my way or a suggestion of a new video. I am always looking for those. But I have another suggestion for you, and it's another video. If you want a better idea of what it's like to live in Metro Vancouver and where it might be the right part of Metro Vancouver for you to live, if this video got your brains tingling a little bit, I made a video that I think you're really going to enjoy, exploring all of the best suburbs of Vancouver. So definitely check out that video. Thank you so much for watching, and I really do appreciate you sticking here all the way to the end. See you next week.